Set for here. Okay.
Anytime.
What we have here is a portrait of Robert Kennedy, and it was done by a pop artist by the name of Roy Lichtenstein. And he being the artist, was just beginning to explore this new field of pop art, as was Time magazine. And Time began using, anything, the parameters of normal were just, exploded in every aspect of life, and Time was part of that. So the traditional covers of a regular oil painting, portrait, or photograph, Time was getting away from that a little bit, and so they were using pop art of Lichtenstein's. Andy Warhol was another cover artist for Time, as well as Robert Rauschenberg. So Time, why they chose Lichtenstein to do RFK, I don't know, but the portrait was done in May May 24th, 1968, and this was just a few weeks before his assassination. And of course he was challenging Eugene McCarthy for the Democratic nomination for president. And at this point, LBJ, the current president, was out of the picture. He saw Robert F. Kennedy in the rearview mirror and decided that the two never got along, and it was time for him to leave, and that's what he did in a speech on March 31st. He got out. So, and anyway, what was RFK's take on this portrait? Well, he wasn't exactly enamored with it, but he wanted to know why his face had red dots all over it. And but this was just his style, Lichtenstein's style, and it was totally new. In fact, when he started this a few years earlier in the 60s, a lot of people were questioning, is this art? I mean, he would do an image of a hot dog, or any common article, and people were wondering, what is this? And well, of course it was art. One of Lichtenstein's pieces a number of years ago went for $40 million. So. And anyway, the portrait gallery is fortunate to have this. It's part of the Time cover art collection here at the gallery. This is a collection of more than 2,000 works of original cover art that was then photographed and put on the cover of Time magazine. Journalism has changed much lately, and Time is not making these original covers anymore, and their cover looks like everyone else's pretty much for the most part. But for a very long time, 80 years or so, their covers were still unique. There was usually a portrait, and it was they used a contract artist to do that, and Lichtenstein was one of these in May of 1968.
Can I ask, how does this portrait, other than just being a portrait of a very important person in history, how does it figure into that day, that moment? Is this supposed to be the moments before this event happened?
Well, this portrait, yes. This portrait was done about 2 weeks before the assassination. So, that's why it's almost comical. It reminds you of a comic strip. And so the gravity of that, of what takes place 2 weeks later, Time would then use in a more serious portrait of RFK. And on the cover there, it's one that he looks very grave, and he's looking down. It's a very somber, sober portrait. So this is very different, and it's just a matter of timing. Now, what Time did, Time would go back to Lichtenstein a couple weeks after the end of June, and one of their most famous covers is called The Gun in America, and Lichtenstein would do an image in this style of a revolver pointed exactly right at the viewer. And that's a very powerful cover. That's in our collection too. So with Time magazine, if there was a cover, there was always a cover story. So the cover story obviously was gun control. And this was something that President Johnson was beginning to push and felt very strongly about it. This is RFK's was the third assassination. He had a brother, of course, the president, and John Kennedy and Martin Luther King just a few months before. So gun control was critical, and it was really the tipping point for the National Rifle Association. Up until this time, they had mostly been emphasizing gun education. Now it's going to begin to be gun lobbying, and that's what we have today. So when this cover was done, Robert Kennedy was in a very favorable position to win that Democratic nomination. He had just won the California primary, and that's why he was in the California in Los Angeles at the time, early June. And he did not want to go to the Ambassador Hotel. He wanted to actually spend the evening with his family in a hotel. But the Ambassador Hotel had already made arrangements for him to speak, and he showed up, he spoke to them, and as he was shaking hands going out through the kitchen, that's when Sirhan pulled a revolver, and that's it.